Hey guys, it's everyone's favorite tsundere here, Liv, aka Olivia-Sama. We are here with our BBR draft analysis. Now, before I begin, of course, I have to continue as the Get Matt to 800 subs campaign has gone pretty strong, I will say. We have done a very valiant effort, guys, in terms of getting Matt to near 800 subs. He's at 778. And sadly, I don't think it'll happen in this video like we tried. However, I do still want to get Matt to 800 before his birthday, of course. So we have like an extra week. I really want to get Matt to 800. So if we can please get Matt to 800. He's a 778 right now. I'm throwing up the same 770 slide though because I can't be asked to screenshot it again. But yeah, let's get Matt to 800 subs, guys. BBR draft analysis, of course. We're taking over for Leo, who took over for Brendan. So my spot is just cursed according to Mid. That's exactly how he phrased it. He quite literally said my spot is cursed. I told him, no, I'm not dropping unless I get hit by a car. So let's hope I don't get hit by a car, guys. So if you hear me drinking during the draft analysis as well, I'm just getting over being sick. I've been sick for like the past 9 days. This has been pretty bad. But it is what it is. As you guys know, of course, we're taking over from free agents, so draft is a bit weird. I will also say I'm going over the team from free agents as I've done every time I've subbed in for a league. I'm not covering the original team. However, for anyone who wants to know what we're using week 4, this is our team for week 4. I'm covering the stats so you cannot see what happened week 4 kill-wise, or you cannot see what mons we brought week 4, or you cannot imply what mons might have come and what didn't come. Because some stuff is 0 stats, some stuff has other stats from other games. You will not be able to imply anything off of this because I'm not showing you anything off of this. So, that is all you're seeing of that. That is the old team. For anyone who wants a quick history lesson on the BBR as a whole, quick history lesson. BBR started as a league from the PGP draft tour, which I uploaded, I think, like one video on the channel, maybe a second. They were a team of coaches who were not in any league in particular that was playing or were in a league that already had filled roster spots. They were just participants who wanted to play. So BBR was in that league and they went undefeated main season actually. So they ended up taking over and making their own actual league after doing so well in PGP. And yeah, that's pretty much how BBR became a thing. So then they did a season, this is their season 2. As I mentioned, I'm taking over for Leo. There's a lot of big names this season. I will say, one thing that BBR did fantastic on, one is the graphics. These graphics are fucking beautiful. And 2, they did a really good job at marketing themselves for season 2. So shout outs to BBR, of course, for that. They absolutely killed it in who they got, and it's a phenomenal roster. I'm looking forward to like all of my games. So yeah, without further ado though, let's just get right into the draft. So I will say as well, of the mons you just saw, I only kept one Pokemon, so I'll go over that first. The rest of it's going to be pretty out of order in terms of like what you'd see in a normal draft perspective. I didn't go by points. I went by just the order I typed it out in the plan, to be completely honest. So that first mon that I did pick up though, or that I kept, I should say, is our Melmetal. Looking at the tier 200 point pool, it wasn't like really tiers as points, but like loosely points, I should say. The mons that I had Gengar and Melmetal, which were my 200 point mons for the prior team. The only other things in free agency were Conkeldurr, which I'm personally a fan of Conkeldurr, but it really did not fit this team. Terrakion, which I had a plan for a Terrakion Sun team. However, my good pal Clutch sometimes told me I was not allowed to draft that, even though Venusaur matched up really well against like every team but one. Clutch told me I wasn't allowed, so heck you, Clutch. So sadly we did not go with the Terrakion Sun team. And the final mon was Toxapex. I couldn't tell you why this is 200 points. I do think that Pex is a good Pokemon. I think it's a viable Pokemon in draft. However, I think it was 200 points just because no one wanted to play it. And I think it should have been 160 personally, with looking at the board. I think the 200 points was specifically tiered because people on the admin team did not want to play it. And then they're going to complain it's bad, which is their logic for why it didn't go drafted, even though it was just because it was over-tiered. But I digress. Pex was a mon that I think could have been good on this team, actually, to be completely honest. However, it didn't fit enough of what we needed. And also, it was 200 points. If it was 160, I would have 100% gotten it. It would have been a great fit for this team. But Melmetal was basically, as you can tell, really like one of the only viable tier 1s. Even though I didn't personally like Melmetal, between that and the lack of steals, there was no steals left that resisted flying. So they definitely sucked. But I'm going to keep Melmetal. I was not a big fan of it in TBL, I'll be completely honest. However, I decided from the lack of a board to pick from that we kind of had to pick it. So it is what it is. It's not like I really anticipate Melmetal to do nothing, because we had a couple games where it piped up in TBL. Out of our 7, I think I ended up like getting 2 games where we got 3 kills. Definitely a really solid mod. This thing has no reliable counterplay, I will say that, at least in Wi-Fi standpoint. A lot of bulky waters that you would typically think would be switch-ins would not switch in, because those people are cowards and don't run power herb sets, when I quite literally proved versus Jolt and Goldoa in TBL that Seismic Toad is not a switch-in. The only real switch-ins are the bulky water that I got, and then like Pex kind of, and then Slowbro kind of. So I do think Melmetal is really good. I think in Wi-Fi draft it's honestly kind of broken. I wouldn't really say that in Galar decks it is, purely for the fact that there's just a lot better offensive counterplay. It's probably a top 5-10 mod in Wi-Fi standpoint, though, I would say. It's just not my kind of mod. But I digress. It's definitely a viable pick. Sorry, I had to pause for a second, got ridiculously sneezy there. I forget what I was saying, but it was something along the lines of something. We drafted a lot of counterplay on Melmetal on top of also a lot of mods that destroy counterplay on Melmetal. So I feel confident in the team. I still am not a big fan of it, personally, at least Melmetal, but I do think we did a good job drafting on it for drafting from free agency. Our next pick is Raftalia, the Obstagoon. For anyone who's wondering why, because it's broken. I will say I was shocked to see this in free agency. This really shouldn't have been, especially seeing what other darks were taken. This is probably better than most of them. The only viable darks left in the pool were... Actually, no, I take that back. They weren't really viable darks. But the only semi-viable darks were Grimmsnarl, which was too many points. It was 160. Couldn't tell you why. Crawdon was 140. Couldn't tell you why. It was probably a 120. Grim was probably a 140. And then Bisharp. I personally think Bisharp was worth the cost, but I was not drafting Bisharp and Melmetal as my first 2 mods. That would have been a throw. And then every other dark is not even worth mentioning, because it's stuff like Sneasel, which I had on the team originally. Do not like Sneasel. And then, like, they get worse than Sneasel somehow, which is insane to even mention that, but they just somehow did. I won't lie, though. There was one dark that I actually was really considering. Actually 2. One was Umbreon, but I did not want Stall. And even though I definitely could have, but I didn't want to go that route. And the only other one I was considering was Scrafty. Now, Scrafty I think is a good dark. However, Goon is just so much better. It is so much better. It would have been a throw not to get Obstagoon, especially at 140 points. I actually think it was kind of a steal. I can definitely get why it wasn't 160, but I think compared to what was in the tier, it was one of the best mods to begin with. And I'm shocked that it didn't go, especially seeing some of the darks that other teams have. So I'll take it. It's really nice momentum already going into Melmetal. This is a really free pivot into it, especially with Parting Shot. Arguably one of the best pivot options in general, especially going to Melmetal of all things. On top of this as well, it's going to destroy Psychic types, so stuff like Slowbro that would otherwise be really good counterplay is not going to beat my Melmetal anymore, because I can destroy it with Obstagoon. Same as stuff like Slow King. Not going to be a problem for Melmetal, even though Melmetal could definitely muscle past if needed. It's more so just regen bash switch-ins, kind of annoying, but we can definitely muscle past. This is going to be a really nice stall breaker on top of Melmetal to really get through teams. So I could run Melmetal maybe more defensively if I need to, which is great because it is a steel type. That's kind of what most steel types are supposed to do. So Obstagoon is definitely really good in that department. Also, this thing has a lot of options. If people are trying to run webs around me to maybe make Melmetal countered easier, then I can run a Defiant set and take advantage of their webs. I can run Guts as a burn switch-in. So it's obviously really good in that department. Between Melmetal and Goon, I also have nothing really fearing T-Spikes, because Goon is going to take advantage of it with Guts, and Melmetal is immune to it. So already I'm doing a lot of good job in covering my status bases as well. The only one that's really annoying is T-Wave. T-Wave can definitely suck, but I do still have options down the road. In general, though, I think Obstagoon is definitely a really good pick for the team. It's going to provide a lot of support. I built the team basically around these 2 mods breaking everything, even like physical walls, so I do think I did a good job with that. Next mod on the team, over tiered Rotom Fan, is going to be Krush from ReZero. They're going to fit really well. I will say this was extremely overtiered, and it really sucked because this mod, if it was 80 points like it should have been, or even like, actually no, it probably should have been 80, but if this was like 80 points like it should have been, I could have gotten a much scarier team. It is still a good pick. I still drafted it despite it being overtiered, because it fit really well. It objectively just did too much for the team not to pick it up, and Rotom Heat was too expensive. Rotom Heat was a mod that I would have loved to build around, but as well, a big thing about this is it's a water switching that can actually, well, not like a resist, but it's an electric type that's at least not going to be weak to a water type, so it can actually beat them more reliably, which is huge. I couldn't really do that with Rotom Heat, so that's definitely something important. On top of this as well, Rotom Fan was just too good of a pick for the team synergy-wise. In terms of the end team, it was a great immunity to ground types. It was a great option for fighting types, which, as you could already see, I'm building up a weakness to. So it was just way too important. The other flying options were taken that were either really bad or they were already taken. So stuff like Butterfree was one of my other options for a flying type. Other options were like Mantine, which Mantine actually could have, in hindsight, been good. But it was not going to work out with my other options. Then it was like Sigilif. So, like, as you can see, like, the options were really not viable. The best one in the pool probably being, like, Scyther or Togetic. So, we really had to bank on this, even though it was expensive. It was very expensive. But, yeah, I'm not going to say much about this. It is a really nice pivot. It's a mod around the 80 speed tier, which, while my next pick actually is as well, it actually can take advantage of its 80 speed tier, unlike the next pick. It's a really cool break where Nasty Pot is gen. It can actually possibly get through teams. Paint Split is cool. Defog is cool. It's one of my few defoggers. Nice status options for Willow, T-Wave, Toxic. All three are really important for Melmetal, depending on the matchup. So, yeah, this is a cool mod. It was overpriced, though. It was ridiculously overpriced. There was some gripes with the board. This was probably one of my biggest. Next up on the team, we have MILOTIC. Now, I will say that MILOTIC, 160 points, you might think it's a bit high just on paper, because 160 points was like borderline tier 1, high-end tier 2. But I think that MILOTIC definitely speaks for itself this gen, personally. I will stand by that. I think MILOTIC was very, very worth the tier, actually, and I'm genuinely shocked it did not go. MILOTIC, what it offers my draft is a phenomenal Steel-type switch-in. It also offers me a phenomenal switch into stuff like ground types, because while MILOTIC isn't like a resist, it can definitely beat a lot of grounds really easily. On top of this as well, MILOTIC just covers a lot of stuff that Melmetal is weak to. As I mentioned, grounds already. It's also going to be able to cover fire types for me, though, which is huge because my team really does not cover that so far. Rotom Fan can beat through grasses for it, so that's obviously really dependent. It just fits really nice in the rest of my draft. Between this and Obstagoon, though, I should cover pretty much everything that would otherwise potentially be an issue for just general offensiveness, to be honest, or defensiveness, because these two actually both offensively and kind of defensively even pair really well together, in the sense that obviously Goon is going to cover through just Psychics and might try and outstall with like Magic Guard for MILOTIC. So while obviously MILOTIC isn't weak to them, a lot of Psychics like Reuniclus would probably still be able to 1v1 this, because MILOTIC can get Toxic to Reuniclus can't. And meanwhile, MILOTIC can obviously still be another status absorber if, let's say, it's versus a Burn, or actually versus T-Spikes. I wouldn't really want Goon to be Toxic Spike because it's already kind of frail, whereas MILOTIC at the very least can potentially like rest, or even just in general get around status through Marvel Skill, and then actually take hits from teams, whereas Goon can't really do that. So while the typings don't really defensively synergize well, they do definitely beat a lot of things for each other, which is really good. MILOTIC as well is one of the best Melmetal checks, so having Melmetal, if someone wanted to maybe counter free agent me, realizing they were really weak to it, one less option on the board. They're kind of stuck with Toxic specs at this point, because Slowbro and MILOTIC both went, so they're kind of stuck with 200-point Toxic specs, and they really want to counter team me. So I felt like that was really good. MILOTIC was definitely something I felt like also fit really well to a lot of people's teams, so just taking it from people before they free agented for it, I thought was really good. MILOTIC as well having recovery is really important. I felt like as a bulky water, especially without Melmetal having recovery, I wanted some sort of bulk to have recovery on the team that I didn't need to get a Wish Passer for, so definitely nice. MILOTIC as well is really good for Intimidate mods. Between that and Defiant Goon, no one's bringing Intimidate Arcanine to check my Melmetal, which is huge. Same as Incineroar, to be honest, because I have competitive MILOTIC and Defiant Goon, so no one's going to be thinking about bringing Intimidate against my team. And if they are, they're kind of a dumbass. But regardless, though, I do think that this is a very good pick on the team. Between this and Goon, they also help a lot with Melmetal, so I do feel really confident. Also, flip to MILOTIC, we have momentum on everything besides Melmetal so far, so that's also really nice. Next up on the team, we get our first Hazard mod on the team, along with some more momentum, a nice base 100 pick finally, and a nice ground switch in that is not Rotom fan. We have CELEBI. Now, in terms of CELEBI, I do think that there's definitely a lot you can say negative about it. For one, it's 4 times quick to U-turn. It's a grass that can't really take advantage of switching in harder in Rillaboom because of the fact that if Rillaboom predicts and goes for U-turn, I can't really do that anymore. Whereas something like maybe Amoonguss would have been a lot better in that regard. So matchup-wise especially, not the best. But I will say that CELEBI fills a lot of important roles for this team. And I do think as well that CELEBI is an incredibly slept-on modern format. This thing is incredibly diverse. It's nearly as diverse as Mew in terms of just the Pixies. It's probably the second most diverse. The support it gives is great between the fact that it gets healing versus support, which is huge for Melmetal. That is insane. Most teams don't even want to play Melmetal once. Imagine having to essentially play it twice because it just barely hangs on, and then Healing Wish comes in, heals it up before it takes a spike, and then you can't kill it anymore. That is incredible. A lot of teams, as I said, will hate playing that. This also helps a lot with like getting rid of MILOTIC Toxic, of course. And speaking of, CELEBI also gives us a really nice Cleric. Now, we do have another Cleric, but just it has a bit of Form Musalt Syndrome, so just having CELEBI to help clear stuff, both for itself with Natural Cure, but also in general, just having the options through stuff like Heal Bell is really important, in my opinion, to my team. Thunderwave support is really cool for Melmetal, being able to just bash stuff a lot easier. Nice pivot options with U-turn. Has dual setup in Plot and Sword Stance, which is obviously really nice. Coverage to back it up this gen, especially with Aura Sphere, helping a lot with Darks, which would otherwise threaten it before. On top of this, it also has Trick Room support, which is really good in case I want to go for the slow option from Melmetal. And yeah, I mean, this is our first rocker on the team. Has really good recovery as well, which, again, as I mentioned, my team's recovery before MILOTIC wasn't really that good. This thing basically is just a support mod for the team, but it can also break if needed. I do have a lot of faith in CELEBI. MILOTIC is going to be Umi Sonata. I could have done MILOTIC. I realize that now. It was really free. I might still change that before week 1. It's really funny. I don't know. But CELEBI is definitely going to be Shoko, because Shoko is a better time-traveling girl, don't at me. And also the fact that this works a lot better than going with the black color scheme. It just looked way too saturated. So, yeah, we have CELEBI here. I have a lot of faith. As well, as I mentioned, my team really, as I said, is really, really good about not worrying about T-Spikes. This play is important later because I didn't actually get a Grounded Poison. As I mentioned, if Toxapex is 160 like it should have been, I would have gotten that. However, couldn't really afford one. This kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Regardless, though, CELEBI having Natural Cure helps a lot around that. MILOTIC and Goon taking advantage of status helps with that. Rotom Fan and Melmetal being immune helps with that. So I'm not really worried about Toxic Spikes with this team. In fact, it's the later end of my team that has more issues with it, but most of the mons don't anyway. So not a huge deal that I get a Grounded Poison, but it was definitely something I had to keep in mind when making the team. So that's just another area where CELEBI helps. And while I could have gotten Amoonguss, they were the same cost. I wanted a grass that would be a ground switch in. So I just want to acknowledge that, because anyone who sees the free agent board, especially for people who are in the league who see it and wonder why I didn't just go Amoonguss, that's why. Next up on the team, we have ourselves Palisand. So Palisand, I think, was actually a really, really good pick for 100 points. I'm also shocked this mon wasn't taken, to be completely honest. Scorching Sand is really, really beneficial to this as well for just checking a lot of fighting types. It helps burn them easier, so that way then they're less offensive against my team, which is great support from Melmetal. It's also a fighting type immunity, which is really good for Melmetal, especially for Goon as well. Even though I do have 2 resists, U-turn can threaten out CELEBI, and a lot of fighting types have good coverage for Rotom with like Stone Edge. So this is a really good switch in. Forces a lot of counterplay as well, coverage-wise, because teams are going to need, like, well, fighting types especially are going to need like Ice, Fighting, and then like U-turn for CELEBI, because most Ice Punches won't really kill CELEBI anyway. And Rotom as well, they're probably going to need like Stone Edge for Rotom to actually 2KO it. So I definitely burn them between Rotom and Palisand before they actually threaten my team at all. MILOTIC should also help check that, so that helps a lot defensively as well. Even though it's not a resist, it's just going to beat through a lot of them anyway. Palisand as well gives us our second rocker, which is great, and also spin blocker, which is important because I decided to go for spikes later on. So having the option to hazard stack while not being able to get rapid spun on, I think is going to be really vital in my opinion. Palisand as well is another mon with recovery. So while again Melmetal and Melmetal lacks reliable recovery, and Rotom Fan is Pain Split for recovery. We have 3 Mons out here that can actually form a really solid defensive core that have their own reliable recovery. This being Shore Up for Palisand, Synthesis for Celebi, and Recover, and then MILOTIC has Recover as well. So we should be good on the recovery wall aspect. Palisand also isn't that passive, and also is one of the more spit F ground types. It's easily one of the most, I think it's like top 5, top 10 or something, maybe top 5 for Mons allowed at least. So that obviously does play into some of the merit for Palisand, which I think is really good because while we do have some spit F and like MILOTIC, which is a really good spit F mon, Melmetal has like none. So switching in against like a special fighting type, this will be really beneficial for as well. So yeah, I do think that there's a lot of merit to Palisand. I think it really fills a lot of holes in the team. As you can see though, between especially the MILOTIC, Celebi, and Melmetal, we are running up on points. Also, Goonel took a lot of points as well. So our next pick had to be a bit more cost effective, especially because of that 100-point Rotom Fan. And that being, oh wait, okay, I just want to make sure. I thought for some reason that had the wrong types for Palisand. But that being COMFEY. So this is where the 100-point difference for Rotom Fan made a huge impact. If Rotom Fan was 80 points like it should have been, then we could have gotten Alcremie over this, which kind of sucks. But it is what it is. By the way, forgot nicknames again. Palisand is going to be Beach episode because while it's not an anime girl, it's an anime reference. Literally every anime has a Beach episode. Don't at me. And then COMFEY is going to be Orisuki because the flowers are designed after the 3 main girls and my favorite, Asuka, best girl easily. So, yeah, figured that was really free. Flowers also, the actual body is for Asunaro, and then the green is for just like flowers, usually have green stems. So I feel like that fit really well color scheme wise. COMFEY also fit it really well in general. Was trying to get Mugi the Alcremie though, but sadly it was 20 points too much because of that damn Rotom Fan being too many points. Regardless though, I do still think that Rotom Fan fit well enough to justify getting COMFEY over Alcremie. Just kind of sucked that had to be the compromise I need to make because Alcremie fit way too well speed tier wise as well, helped patch the gap between MILOTIC and Palisand, which is really important. However, COMFEY does still offer a lot to my team. For one, this is a really reliable priority user. My only other priority on the team is our next pick having Quick Attack, and I think that's it. So this is a really nice priority user. On top of this as well, we have the Cleric option as a backup for Celebi, so Celebi doesn't have to be your only Cleric. Both this and Celebi have Leech Seed support for Melmetal, which helps get them up really healthy. So this is basically just the support aspect of Celebi, but it also just still a priority through Draining Kiss. On top of this as well, we have the potential for Calm Mind options being a lot more threatening because of stored power this gen, which means that a Calm Mind option can't really just be walled by a bulky poison anymore. It's really just a Spit F Steel, which even then, a lot of Spit F Steels don't exist. There's very few that actually have a Spit F stat in general, and it's like Corviknight and a couple others. It's like Corviknight, Ferrothorn. That's pretty much it in this format. Everything else is really shit. So this can get around a lot of mons that would normally check it just because of Calm Mind Sword Power, which is really, really good. This helps just in general offensively as well for the team because our breakers right now are really just physical breakers, and that does continue sadly just because of points we need to make. So yeah, I do think that COMFEY offers a lot to the team personally. It's not Alcremie good, but I still have a lot of faith in COMFEY. If you guys saw our LBC run from the season that happened, this was a really, really valuable pick on that team, and I do think still that this will prove to be very valuable on this roster. Also, I was sad I couldn't use it in GDL because of just how the team ended up shaping, so I'm really glad at least that we did get it on here. Next up on the team, we have Mako, Monk, and Choco, our TERRAKION. I did this one off of the uniform that Mako wears, of course, and as you can clearly tell, this was the third league I was mentioning in my PBL draft analysis that I had TERRAKION in. I quite literally finished my free agent plan like a couple hours before recording that, so it was pretty funny just how that worked out. Sadly though, this pretty much killed all of our points, but it was a very necessary pick. For one, it's a breaker over base 100 speed. The fighting options left were literally just this, Scrafty, and the rest were really, really unviable fighting options, which I thought a fighting option would be really important for this team because right now, offensively at least, we don't really have a good way outside of Palisand to break through steel types. So in general, also, we didn't really break dark types that well outside of COMFEY, which was really important. While not necessarily for Melmetal, it kind of is for Melmetal, but mostly just for like Magic Guard or Uniclus outstalling MILOTIC, as I mentioned. Celebi can't really break through most psychics anyway. So it was definitely important to have an option to just Well, actually, not for Psychics, for Darks. I don't know why I went on the Psychic rant. I mean, to be fair, TERRAKION does still have Ban and Mega Horn, which is going to shatter through most Psychics, which is great because a lot of Psychics are going to try and switch in on this. But if I predict them and click Ban and Mega Horn, they're no longer switching anyway. So that does still help, obviously. But I don't know why I went on the bulky Psychic tangent. This does still help a lot, though, regardless for Steals and Darks, which I also, to be fair, don't really break Darks that well anyway outside of COMFEY. Melmetal can probably beat a lot of Darks anyway, but still, I don't really, like, super effectively hit any sort of fat Dark, like a Mandibuzz, for example. This can easily Stone Edge that. Umbreon as well could definitely take a hit or two, but TERRAKION just close combat, that's fucked. So, yeah, no, I have a lot of faith in Melmetal. I think it'll be a really, really good pick for the team person. Not Melmetal, TERRAKION. I don't know why. This mon, I just cannot think of the correct stuff for it. Regardless, though, compared to every other fighting option, this is a really good pick. I think it fits the team really well. It gives us a nice offensive base over 100 pick, so just helps a lot with speed tiers as well, because sadly we didn't get webs, so it is what it is. I do still think the TERRAKION is really broken. Next two picks, we're getting to fan favorite territory. Rating in as our current Gen 8 fan favorite until I reveal the overall fan favorite, and then everyone's going to fawn over that getting drafted again. We have Chen, our Trapinch. Now, if anyone remembered our TBL run, this thing actually did a lot of work, or didn't do much work, sadly. It could have done a lot of work, but we kind of choked it really bad. I do think this team is a lot better built to have Trapinch supporting, however. We have a lot better hazard options for one on this team. We have TERRAKION as a pseudo option, and then we have Celebi and Palisade, both those reliable rockers. We also have a lot better just momentum into Trapinch, which is great for trapping stuff, especially a lot of slow momentum stuff like maybe COMFEY, which won't run a lot of speed most games, Rhythm Fan, MILOTIC even. So we do have a lot of slower-ish momentum that can pivot into Trapinch really easily to trap stuff. On top of that as well, a lot more benefits from Trapinch trapping stuff. So I think that's really important. With the fact that they seem to have banned Shadow Tag, I'm shocked that they let this thing also stay in 40 points. I think that was really dumb personally. I think this is an objectively just better Arena Trapper than Diglett. And when they also put Dugtrio at 160 points, I'm shocked that this wasn't at least 60. But I'll take it because this was criminally under-tiered personally. I think this still would have been a better 60-point mon than most of what was on the board. So this definitely did, I will say, make up for the road fan over-tiering. More than enough, I will say. I do think our next pick was slightly under-tiered. I think that could have also maybe been 60. But I get, at least from the uncultured eye, why they would think that that's maybe not a 60-point mon. This could be Chen again, as we did for TBL. For TBL, it just makes too much sense. What I will say, though, is our next pick, I sadly could not do an anime reference to this mon, guys. I'm really sorry. I've probably failed a lot of people with that. However, for any really, really, really long-time channel fans, from, like, BBL Season 2 and GBA D-League days, you're going to be really, really fucking happy with the mon that comes up next. Rating in from the 40-point tier and the Unova region, we have the one true god of the team, Tinkershell the Shellmet. I almost said Trapinch. I don't know why. When I saw that we had TERRAKION and we need to scrounge our points, I was terrified. I was genuinely terrified we were going to find some shitters like Coughing or Magnemite, or I guess Munchlax actually is a pretty viable option. I'm also not sure why that didn't get drafted, to be honest, but that's a whole nother rant. But then I found Trapinch and Tinkershell, and I was ecstatic. I'll be honest, I forgot that this mon was in the format. I completely forgot that a Selgar was its evolution and that this mon was in the format. But when I saw it on the board, I was ecstatic. This mon is one of my favorite mons to use to this day. Easily led to one of my favorite games still to this day. The fact that we had this thing actually be the reason that we destroyed Matt, and we got actual kills with it as well this season, was too good. For BBL Season 2, set a new standard for Shellmet, and I'm going to be honest, the only thing I'm scared of with this mon is that I'm not going to be able to top it. I do think that Tinkershell is going to be really broken. I 100% already know a few matchups I am bringing it to. Trapinch, I haven't really looked too much in that one's matchups, but I can safely say I already know 2 or 3 teams I'm bringing this Shellmet against, and I can safely say that this thing will be getting kills. I can say Trapinch will probably as well, but this especially will be getting kills. Anyone who denies Tinkershell and thinks that this thing isn't a threat, you're kidding yourself because you're sacking 2 mons to it because you didn't prep for it. People might be thinking that this thing is a joke, but it's not. I can safely say that I will be bringing this. Ask anyone, I will bring it. I will do work with it. I will bring it. It will get thumbnail. It will not even have the graphics. It will just be Tinkershell in the thumbnail, and you'll know it killed something. So that's Tinkershell. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like down below. Also comment telling me why Tinkershell and Tonchan are your favorites. If you think for some reason those are unviable picks, leave my channel right now. I do not want you here. They're the only 2 real mons in this team. Everything else is an accessory to Tonchan and Tinkershell. Everything else is an accessory. Leave my channel right now if you think that's a joke. I promise you it is not, and I will delete any comments saying that they are joke picks. With that being said, I'll get out of here. Week 4 we're taking on Olivia-Sama. Oh my god, I thought this was week 1, but I'm taking over for the team. Week 4 we're taking on Olivia-Sama with the team I showed before. But for anyone who wasn't paying attention before and skipped to the end, I know that some of you have. We are using these mons. Oh, and also Tangela and Kadabra, because that got cut off when I rewinded the page to look at the draft board. But regardless, though, this is the team we're using for week 4 only. And then this is the team we're using from week 5 and on. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Smash like, of course, and subscribe. We'll see you guys later. Peace out, guys.